Arizona baseball wins the Big 12 tournament. What are their chances of making a big-time postseason run?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. This episode is brought to you today by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Arizona baseball is here, ladies and gentlemen. Arizona baseball is here, and they are on a tear right now. And again, this is something that we've seen before with Arizona baseball under Chip Hale, and that the team generally plays pretty well down the stretch, and it's not been the case once they've got into the postseason. I get all of that, but at the other time too, it's also fair to say that a new year and a new reason for optimism, and I think that's kind of what's exciting about all of this. So, how did Arizona get here? We got to give Kane a lot of credit to begin with. Arizona was in a lot of trouble against TCU, and that the bats were not going, and TCU was doing very, very well. This is a TCU team that, like I said, was pitching incredibly well, and Arizona got in there, and Arizona was able to get the wins at the end, or the runs at the end. And a big reason why is Kane, again, the Ironwood Ridge outfielder. He homers, and then Arizona's able to get another run as well. Then the Wildcats were able to win. That was a massive. That was a season. That was a season type. That was a season, altering type play right there. And that he, like I said, he swung for the fences and he got it. And I think from an Arizona perspective, then you're just kind of like, okay, cool. Now, can we do anything else, or was that all for naught? The pitching held. The pitching has been great, and Arizona is now off to the postseason. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. Now, for the longest time, Arizona was kind of in that top 16 range when it came to the postseason. They struggled a little bit down the stretch, and there were people that were wondering, what exactly was going to happen with the U of A. Were they going to be able to? Were they going to be able to make? Were they going to be able to make it? The Arizona, they showed that. And again, Pac-12 and a Big 12 tournament champions, my friend. That is a big, big deal. And again, I am not breaking any news. About that. So the big thing, though, is if you got pitching, you're going to have a chance. Arizona's got pitching, so therefore they are going to have a chance. And they've got enough bats in the lineup that they can, that you can really make a difference there. So the first guy that we got to talk about, though, is Mason White. Mason White is an absolute stud. He's going to be a professional baseball player. And he not only is going to be a professional baseball player, he's going to be a high round draft pick, I would imagine. And again, a local kid, and that's something that you got to keep an eye on. Chip has shown that he can recruit at a pretty high level. We are going to talk about the recruiting and at a very high level and how Chip Hale has been able to do it. But he has shown so far that he is able to recruit at a high level. So there's obviously that. Now, when it comes to the other players, you got Kane. Obviously, you've got a lineup. You've got a lineup that can hit. And there was and a lot of it, some of it's local as well. And you've got a lineup that can hit, and you've also got a like I said, a lot of players that can do a lot of different things for you. It's a talented team. It's a team that, listen, is it an all-time great Arizona team? Probably not. But it's also a team that looks the part when it gets off the plane And you can see that you can just basically see that, they got a lot of potential. They got a lot of bats. And like I said, he's done a pretty good job with this roster. Can't sit here and say that it's a great team, but at the same time, it's a good team. And you just kind of go up and down. And you look at what they've been able to do. And I guess we'll just start from a hitting. We can just start from a hitting perspective and what they've been able to do. It has been it's a solid team. It's a solid team across the board, and he's done a pretty good job with recruiting. Now, the first thing that I think you got to look at, though, too, is he's done a really good job with the local recruiting scene, and I think that's something that a lot of people were a little bit concerned about. Where what was going to happen when he had all of his own players in there, and that was I think that was a legitimate concern. But he's got all of his own players in here, and he's done a pretty good job. Now, again, another one too, Kane. You got to talk about him. Now, listen, there were 4 or 5 local kids that you looked at, and you were just kind of like, all right, how are you going to be able to fit in here? And you could say that some people probably should have been recruited at maybe a little bit of a higher level, but that has not been the case so far. But we will, like I said, we'll see. This is going to be this is a tough team. It's a tough team, and I think you're hopeful from an Arizona perspective that you're going to be able to get that. Now, let's talk then a little bit about recruiting and when it comes to this team, because Chip Hale, again, he got beat up by a lot of different people because they were like, well, Chip Hale. We don't know what kind of recruiter he's going to be here. We don't know what he can do. Well, he got some of the local guys, and again, that's something too that you can't really look at and say that Arizona's not getting the best players that it can. It's gotten pretty good players. That's also, again, and I'm going to keep saying this, there's also something that comes into it. Like a Mason White, for example. He was not viewed as the equivalent of a 5-star type player, and it's also, but guess what? He hit 330 this year, and he's one of the all-time home run leaders in school history. He was really, really good. And, the perfect game or whatever, they didn't have him rated high enough, obviously. And so there's, obviously that's a big part of it. Then you look at somebody like you look at somebody too, like a Brendan Summerhill or somebody like that. He's produced some pretty good players over the time, and I think that's something that you just got to look at, and you got to say, listen, man, Chip Hale has an eye for talent. He just does. He has an eye for talent, and that's something that is shown that, and that's why I don't really care necessarily about where he is from a recruiting perspective. Look at a Brendan Summerhill, for example. He batted .386 this season. He's again, only 132 at bats, but again, he was pretty good when he played. And then you can go up and down the line. You kind of get it. You kind of get where they're at. Like I said, look at an Andrew Kane. Didn't exactly have a great average this season, but again, he made some plays when it mattered, and he had some hits when it mattered. So there's that. But the real elephant in the room, though, is still going to be the pitching, because if you got pitching, and TCU showed that, if you've got pitching, you're going to have a chance to be able to stay in there. And right now, Arizona's pitching is at it's at a season best right now. And that's something that I think you're looking at from an Arizona spot. What can that pitching do? And we're going to talk about that schedule here in just a second, because Arizona's got a tough regional for sure. Oregon is definitely the favorite to come out of that region, out of this region. But, like I said, with the way that Arizona's playing, they're going to have a real chance at that. And we're going to talk about some of these teams and what they can do. But first, Monarch Money, my friends. Monarch Money. Okay, here's the deal. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. Woohoo! And again, here's what it does too. They can give you surprising insights, and it's not just something where you just log in and you're like, all right, well, here we go. Yeah, that's basically helps you out across the board. All in one convenience, easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal information. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LockedOnCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code Locked On College for half off of your first year. Now, again, stop just kind of treading water and actually get in there and start making a difference. Monarch Money is here to help you. Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the pitching. Like I said, Arizona's pitching is performing very, very well right now, and that's something that we should be excited about. So, what is the next step then when it comes to Arizona's pitching? And, basically where it's at from that perspective is that you just got to keep pitching well. When Arizona's gotten hot in the past, it's been because of timely hitting, and the pitching has been good. So far, Arizona has done a very, very nice job on that in the Big 12 tournament, and they were timely. Plus, with Chip, Chip is able to keep a very, very steely demeanor. And I think with his demeanor, it's something that kids want to play for. I would get super nervous if I was out there and this is all going on. You watch him, and Chip just kind of gets it. He is a guy that he's a coach that you can tell kids like playing for. They like they like what he is able to do. And Chip has done a pretty good job here, and that's something that again that we got to keep in mind. He's done a pretty good job. I know there's a lot of people that are like, Chip, whatever the case may be. I like the job that he's done. I think he's done a very good job here. The other thing too is that he wants to be here. And again, I know that some people don't want to hear that, or they're like, well, whatever. I don't really care about that. He wants to be here. And I think that's something that really, really makes a lot of, that makes a lot of sense. And, like I said, look at Jay Johnson. He was a really, really good coach, but Jay Johnson was 1 foot out the door. And again, I don't blame him because, again, the SEC, those are better jobs at this point. I hate saying it, blah, 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 SEC. They can pay more, though, and they got more, they just got more gravitas. They got more going for it. So, I get it. I get all of that, but at the same time, it's also just a little bit annoying because you're like, all right, well, I guess the SEC, blah. But he wants to be here, and I think that is a massive, massive part of this that I think is a little bit underplayed in all of this is how badly he wants to be here. You're not going to have to worry about Chip going off to another place because, again, he wants to be here. He also, I think, has settled in nicely from a recruiting perspective in that he has been able to get he's got a pretty good record now, a pretty good track record of feeling out what they're basically being able to do. And I think that's, like I said, I think that's something exciting. So we'll see how this plays out. But overall, I think Chip has done a very, very nice job. But now you look at this region then. You got Oregon, you got Cal Poly, and you got Utah Valley. Cal Poly, that is not going to be a pushover game. I mean, you got to remember in baseball, a lot of these schools, these Cal schools, they are they're good. They beat Irvine, UC Irvine is again, that's a very quality program. Historically, Mark Kotze went there, I think. Maybe it was Fullerton. I can't remember. But either way, you've got it's a good program. It's a good program, and it's a good program across the board. That's not going to be an easy one for Arizona. You could also make the case, too, that a school like Oregon, you could make the case that they're underseeded, and I think they probably are underseeded. I mean, they beat Oregon State 4 times, and it's a good team across the board. A lot of Big Ten teams stink at baseball. Oregon's, still got very much of that Pac-12 level flair to it, and that they are good at baseball. And, like I said, that's they're probably a little bit underseeded. I think that is a fair criticism. But listen, at the end of the day, you're going to have to beat some good teams to get there. I mean, Arizona last year kind of wet the bed, and this year I think you're hoping that they can make a difference. But Cal Poly is going to be a tough one. Utah Valley is one that Arizona should handle. Listen, if they don't handle Utah Valley, then there was then obviously there's an issue if they end up playing them. But then Oregon is the that is the key to all this. You got to be able to you're going to have to be able to beat Oregon. But again, Arizona's got the kind of talent that you can sit there and say, all right, well, the Wildcats they can match up well with these teams. And I think that's the case with this. Excuse me. But again, this is going to be Chip Hale. I know that there's people that don't like Chip. I get it. But Chip Hale is also going to be judged on what he does in the postseason. He's gotten his team to the postseason 4 times now. A big complaint from people is they're like, he's not going to be able to recruit. He's not going to be able to. It was all Jay Johnson players. Blah, 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 blah. It is not all Jay Johnson players now. It is all Chip Hale players. And guess what? They are doing very, very well. So there's that. But, like I said, if he could get out of this and get into a super regional, then I think you get people that start saying, all right, well, you know what, Chip, you really got my attention now. And I think most people will say at that point that if you do get Chip Hale, that all right, he's done a good job, and it's time to really get behind this guy. He also did a very, very nice job as opposed to navigating another conference. Because, again, this is a man that has been in the Pac-12 his entire college coaching life, college playing life, and it's just different when you go to the Big 12. Now, again, the teams aren't as good. I get that, so that helps, but you still had teams that came with you, and you still had good teams in there. Also, it's an absolute travesty that the Big 12 did not have that the Big 12 was basically shut out of everything. Arizona, there should have been a team that was hosting, and you could have easily made the case that Arizona should have been able to host just based off the resume that it showed. Arizona, I could easily make that case that they should have hosted. But obviously they are not hosting, so you got to make the best out of a tougher situation. Arizona's in a good spot there. But again, you're going to have to play good teams. I'm going to keep going back to that. You're going to have to play good teams, and you are going to have to be able to at some point you're going to have to be able to just show people what they are doing. Now, if Arizona does lose, guess what? That means you just run it back. The people that are like, I got to move on from Chip, this or that. No. These are the same people. And again, I get it's on a different level, but they're like, Tommy Lloyd, it's been here 4 years and hasn't gotten to the Elite Eight. You take like I said, sometimes it takes a little bit. With Chip, you've clearly got somebody that I think that can build a roster that knows what he's doing, and the recruiting factor is very strong. It's going to be, like I said, he knows what he's doing. It's an exciting, I think we're kind of in an exciting time here, and you don't have to worry about him moving on as well. He's done and I think this was another nice hire by Dave Hickey. I think, again, and I want to talk about that here in a second because I think that Dave gets a little bit of a bum rap, and I think there's an important thing that's overlooked. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now, Dave Hickey catches a lot of arrows from a lot of people. They're like, he doesn't know what he's doing, mid-major Dave, this or that. Listen, Chip Hale, I think, was a good hire. He got blasted for it at the time. Chip Hale was a good hire. He knows baseball. People gravitate towards him. He knows what he's doing. That was a good hire. Tommy Lloyd was obviously a great hire. You could say that Jed Fish didn't hire, or that he didn't hire Jed Fish, whatever, and that was a Robbins hire, fine, whatever. But then he also doesn't get blamed for Sumlin because he wanted to hire Ken N. It is what it is. Brent Brennan, obviously his hire. That doesn't look good. But overall, he did a good job. He's done a good job. And I think the thing that people forget, too, is that when he took over, he inherited a program where people were just going to jail left and right, and that was obviously not a good thing. So you got that. So there's something that you got to keep in mind. But either way, I think that Dave has done a nice job, or Dave did a nice job, and we will continue to see how that plays out. Now, and we'll obviously be talking about this throughout the week. Now, let's talk a little bit about Arizona basketball, a few tidbits. C.D. Gay CD Gay has been awesome and I think that we now need to basically be able to sit here and say that CD is probably going to play in some way, shape, or form. He has looked amazing. He is legitimately 7'1". The way he moves up and down the court is effortless, and he is, like I said, he's just a big dude, and he is somebody that I think I think Arizona fans are going to be pleasantly surprised by. He's done a nice job, and that's a big shout out to this U of A coaching staff for being able to find out what exactly he can do. He's done a very, very nice job, and I think we're kind of at the stage too where you're like, all right, man. You're probably going to be looking at a 1 or a 2 year. You're probably going to be looking at a 1 or a 2 year player, and that's going to be basically But I'm fine with that. That's something that. That's basically what you've got to be able to do. Is you want to know that with Mo Crevis, he could easily move on. You're obviously going to be losing Tobe Awaka. This is going to be your line of succession, and CD Gay is that. Big shout out to the coaches that recruited him. Because he is the man. He's done a very, very nice job. And I think he's going to play because he can block shots and he can finish around the hoop, and he's playing really, really well in these overseas tournaments. That's something that, I think, as an Arizona fan, you got to be pretty excited about. CD Gay, we are in on CD Gay. We are happy that that he's going to be here. And again, he's going to give Arizona something that they didn't really have last year, and that's somebody that can block shots. You want somebody that can block shots. Henry could block some shots, obviously, but I don't look at Mo Crevis and say that that's going to be somebody that's going to be a shot blocking demon or anything like that. You've got that now with Mr. CD Gay, and I think he's going to force his way onto the court sooner than later. I think he's probably going to get into that 8 to 10 minute range. And I think there's going to be some times we're going to have him and Koa Pete, and they are going to and they're going to be, like I said, I think they're going to be really good next to each other. So we shall, like I said, we shall see how that does. We shall see how that does play out. But again, that was a good one. And again, when it comes to filling out the roster, I know that everybody is very concerned about that small forward position. I get it. I totally get it. But you also got to trust the staff. They've done a pretty nice job over the years. And the Carter Bryant thing didn't exactly, I don't think I don't think that it took them by surprise. I think they were ready for that. And, like I said, at the end of the day, they were ready to make something happen. And I think they're going to do exactly that. So that will be something that's going to be fun to watch from a U of A perspective. Now, up front, then you're obviously done. You got the two project big men. You've also got Mo Crevis. You got Tobe Awaka. You've got Koa Pete. You're good to go at this stage. You're good to go. And again, every other position, you got Braden Burries, you got Jaden Bradley, you got Evan Nelson as that third ball handling guard. Now at that small forward spot, you obviously still have to add somebody, but you also have in Dwayne Aristod, you have somebody who is a very high-level, high-upside type player. He's good to go. He's moving up and down the court. And you still have ADO. I think people beat up ADO way too much. And I think with ADO, the thing that's frustrating about it is, dude, you still went to a Sweet 16 with him starting. And I think that's something that is going to I think that's something that is you got to kind of figure out where exactly that's going to figure out. But you did ADO, like I said, he's got some flaws. We all get that. But at the same time, you also know that he's going to be somebody that you can count on to make big free throws. He's going to make the open three. Is he going to be a great defender? No, we know that. But he's also going to be more than good enough, and I think in a bunch of areas for Arizona to win, and he's shown exactly that. I mean, again, people are making it out like this guy's unplayable, like you can't put him out there. That's all a bunch of bunk. That's a bunch of garbage. The guy can play. He just, like I said, he's got a few limitations, but I think people need to chill a little bit on the ADO slander because, again, I think he's a pretty good player, and he has shown himself to be just that. Okay, now tomorrow. We are going to talk then about we're going to talk about Arizona basketball recruiting because there is a lot going on here. And we're going to basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about one player basically each day. The previous we've talked about Cam Williams, we talked about Akinna Alozie. Now the next one we're going to talk about is Cam Holmes. Who is he? What can he do? Because again, he's a very very good player, a very, very good prospect, and he's somebody that Arizona is going to, obviously prioritize and hope that they get. Again, a good player can do a lot of stuff. So, again, we're going to be focusing on that. Then we're obviously going to talk some Arizona baseball as well and continue to go from there because, again, Arizona is in a very good spot when it comes to all of this stuff. But, as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. Bear down, back the A, and we will be back with you tomorrow.